Welcome to another episode of Legacy of a Soap Star.
Today, we are strapping in for, well, the ultimate deep dive into American daytime history. We're focusing on a woman whose sheer ambition, drama, and just endless schemes span 5 entire decades.
That's right. We are zeroing in on Jill Foster Abbott, the corporate powerhouse, the vixen, and really the original bad girl of Genoa City.
She holds this incredible, unparalleled status.
She is the longest running and the only remaining original character from The Young and the Restless since the show debuted way back in March of 1973.
Just think about that for a second. That sustained longevity and impact. It's phenomenal.
It truly is. So our mission today is to unpack this. It's a mountain of source material detailing Jill's tumultuous journey.
We need to trace her evolution, and not just summarizing the plot, but really analyzing her trajectory from this working-class manicurist, desperate for a different life,
To a savvy and, let's be honest, often ruthless CEO.
And critically, we have to track the 5 distinct actresses who brought her to life across those 50 years.
Right, paying close attention to the controversial original, Brenda Dixon, and of course the definitive portrayal by the iconic Jess Walton.
But as you said, we cannot discuss Jill without dedicating serious, necessary time to the rivalry that cemented her legacy.
A 4-decade-long feud with the incomparable Katherine Chancellor.
A clash that truly defines daytime television history. It is the core dynamic that drove that character for a generation.
Okay, let's unpack this from the very beginning then. When the show premiered, Jill Foster was not a member of the elite Chancellor or Abbott dynasties. She came from much more humble beginnings in Genoa City.
Absolutely. The show was built around 2 core families, the wealthy Brooks family and the working-class Foster family. Jill was introduced in only the 2nd episode on March 27, 1973.
So she was right there at the foundational layer of the show's mythology.
Exactly, and she was firmly rooted in that working-class camp. She was the youngest daughter of the adoptive Foster family.
So she had her adoptive parents, Liz and Bill, and then her adoptive brothers, Snapper and Greg.
And the sources make it clear that her identity was really defined by labor and sacrifice from the start.
That's a key point. Her initial occupation was as a manicurist and hairdresser at Hazel's Beauty Salon.
Now, this wasn't just a simple job. She was putting in the hours, working diligently to help fund her brother's professional aspirations.
Right, to get Snapper through medical school and Greg through law school.
Which established her as ambitious and driven, but also, deeply resentful of the economic barrier separating her from the glamorous life she watched her clients live every single day.
So she was initially characterized as, sweet-natured, maybe a little naive.
On the surface, yes, but always with this relentless, driving ambition underneath. She craved glamour and desperately wanted a sense of belonging that her modest upbringing just couldn't provide.
That initial hunger is the engine that drives her entire 50-year saga.
And that hunger immediately brought her into the orbit of the one person who would become her arch-nemesis, setting up the most important conflict of the entire series.
And here's where the defining drama begins.
Jill was hired as a paid companion and hairdresser for the extremely wealthy but severely troubled Katherine Chancellor.
The grande dame of Genoa City, played by the late, great Jean Cooper.
Katherine at the time was struggling intensely with alcoholism. She had this volatile temper, which was isolating her husband.
So Jill was initially hired to help. The sources suggest she pitied Kay, tolerated her heavy drinking and chain smoking.
She was meant to be a comfort, a listening ear, a servant, really.
But this compassion, or maybe that underlying opportunism, led her straight to Katherine's neglected husband, Philip Chancellor II.
Philip was just utterly fed up with Katherine's destructive behavior, so he bonded with this innocent, beautiful young companion who listened without judgment.
And the sources confirm they fell deeply in love.
Giving into passion only once, famously at the boathouse. But that one moment was enough.
Jill became pregnant, which gave her the perfect leverage to claim the wealth and the status she'd always desired.
This right here is the incident that launched the dynasty-defining feud. Philip tried to legitimize the relationship.
He divorced Katherine and was prepared to marry Jill before their son was born. But Kay
was too savvy, or maybe just too reckless to allow that to happen.
As fate, or Kay's desperate scheming would have it, Katherine met Philip at the airport when he got back from the Dominican Republic, where he'd gotten the quick divorce.
And when he refused her plea for reconciliation, she purposefully drove them off a cliff.
Purposefully. In a shocking display of jealousy and desperation.
Philip was left critically injured. Yet, even on his deathbed, he had one final request.
To marry Jill, to ensure their unborn child had his name, and crucially, access to the Chancellor fortune.
He died in Jill's arms shortly after the ceremony, but Catherine was far from done.
Oh no, she launched an endless round of legal maneuvers.
And this wasn't just typical soap drama. This legal challenge established a critical precedent for the show, the importance of paperwork over love.
Catherine successfully argued that she had signed the divorce papers while intoxicated,
And was therefore legally incapacitated.
and the judge agreed with her.
Precisely. The ruling invalidated Philip's divorce from Catherine, which in turn nullified his subsequent deathbed marriage to Jill.
So that was just a catastrophic blow for Jill.
In an instant, she was stripped of everything. Her husband was dead, her marriage was void, and she was right back where she started.
Penniless, but now with a newborn, Philip III.
The newly widowed Catherine, now suddenly stone sober and resolute, was determined to keep the child. She offered Jill a staggering $1 million payoff for the baby.
But Jill, in a rare display of maternal instinct, declined the money.
The consequences, though, were immediate and severe. Jill and the entire working-class Foster family were evicted from the Chancellor estate.
That single dramatic event cemented the rivalry between these two women.
It's cited in historical sources as the longest feud in the history of American soap operas. It lasted over 4 decades.
And it created an antagonist who had a genuine, a real claim to the well she was fighting for.
It's the perfect soap foundation. A triangle involving love, wealth, a deathbed marriage, and an invalid divorce, all over one single act of passion. And that bitterness fueled the character for years.
With that foundation laid, we have to turn our attention to the original Jill, Brenda Dixon. She originated the role and was so deeply connected to the character during these extremely volatile early years.
Dixon herself had a background fit for Hollywood drama. As a teenager, she toured Southeast Asia singing and dancing for the armed forces with Bob Hope.
She won Miss California USA at 17, which brought acting offers, but she chose to pursue formal training at the prestigious Lee Strasberg Theater and Film Institute.
Her tenure was split into 2 key periods, 1973 to 1980, and then again from 1983 to 1987.
But what's interesting, and I think often overlooked, is the chaos during her initial absence.
That's right, you have to contextualize the temporary recasts. The show struggled immensely to find stability in the role before Jess Walton arrived.
How many were there?
During Dixon's initial 3-year absence, the role changed hands 4 times. Bon Gideon took over briefly in 1980, followed by Deborah Adair, who carried the role for most of that time, from 1980 to 1983. Then Melinda Fee even filled in temporarily in 1984.
Wow, so the constant change must have signaled how important character was. They couldn't get it wrong.
Exactly. Jill was too important to the central feud to be played inconsistently. They needed that anchor.
It was during Dixon's time, however, that Jill fully morphed into that manipulative social climbing figure we all remember.
Oh, yeah. Critics quickly labeled her a two-timing, self-absorbed, vindictive little witch.
And Dixon leaned into it.
She was reportedly delighted when viewers compared Jill to the ultimate primetime villainess of the era, Alexis Colby of Dynasty.
She even suggested Jill could give Alexis lessons in rottenness.
Which just illustrates the character's dedication to villainy at that point.
So Jill was clearly embracing her inner villainess, and this era was marked by relentless on-screen schemes designed purely to climb the social ladder or get revenge on Catherine.
And the sources detail some truly classic soap opera tactics. In 1975, she briefly married Brock Reynolds,
Catherine's own son.
her own son, in a bald-faced attempt to get closer to the Chancellor legacy, even though she didn't love him.
Then we have the incredible situation involving Derek Thurston and Stuart Brooks.
This is next-level manipulation. She had an affair with Derek, but in a stunning, almost unbelievable move, she attempted to marry both Derek and Stuart on the same night.
Wait, how does that even work? A dual ceremony?
That kind of planning is truly something else. The plan failed, of course, but she did successfully marry Stuart Brooks after seducing him and faking a pregnancy.
And when the lie about the miscarriage was exposed, that marriage was quickly over.
And ultimately, she lost Derek, who, in a twist of irony, ended up marrying Catherine. Jill's schemes so often backfired on her, just fueling this wily coyote cycle.
Her crucial connection to the second major Genoa City family, the Abbotts, began when she started working at Jabot Cosmetics.
John Abbott, the patriarch and owner, was impressed by her ambition and promoted her to head of merchandising.
Which led to her first marriage to John Abbott in 1982. But she couldn't stay faithful to her respectable, powerful husband.
Cheating on him with his own son, Jack Abbott.
When John divorced her in 1986, Jill showed her shrewd business side.
She leveraged everything. Her position, her knowledge of the Abbott family secrets. She threatened to sell her life story as a scandalous novel or film if John didn't give her a massive settlement.
And that blackmail resulted in her securing 20% of Jabot Cosmetics and a guaranteed seat on the board.
This was a critical turning point. Jill moved from just leveraging her looks to leveraging actual corporate power.
But the danger followed her. Soon after, Jill was shot in her shower.
And the initial suspects were John, Jack, and Catherine.
Which, as we said, tells you everything you need to know about how explosive her relationships were at that time.
And this is where the critique comes in. We have to acknowledge the anticlimax, the real culprit.
Was not one of them.
No, it was a rejected masseur named Sven Peterson who had gotten drunk after she rejected him. He kidnapped her and locked her in a meat freezer before Jack rescued her.
Wait, Sven the masseur, after raising the dramatic stakes to her ex-husband, her stepson, and her arch-rival, that revelation must have been a massive letdown for viewers.
Historically, yes, it was seen as a bit of a fizzle compared to the buildup. The dramatic device was really the shooting and the rescue, which showed Jack's devotion to her more than the identity of the shooter himself. But it kept Jill in mortal peril, which, for a soap, is always the goal.
So Jill is at the height of her notoriety. She's driving ratings. And Dixon even stated publicly in 1987 that she was having too much fun to give up the role.
Right. She said she was planning to branch out into miniseries, but would keep shooting at night to stay on as Jill.
But despite those statements, Dixon was suddenly and controversially terminated in 1987.
This is the moment where the real-life drama rivals anything the writers conceived.
She filed a staggering $10 million lawsuit against Columbia Pictures and the production.
The sources detail these extraordinary claims. Dixon alleged that the show's creator, William J. Bell, blacklisted her. And she went so far as to claim he hired mafia cartel judges and attorneys to ruin her life.
She claimed this blacklisting left her broke and homeless and deliberately blocked her from working in the industry.
It's an extraordinary, highly specific claim, reported directly in our source material, and it speaks volumes about the level of turmoil and bad blood surrounding the role at that time.
A very messy public end to her tenure.
Post-Y&R, Dixon released a 1987 film called Welcome to My Home,
which critics quickly dubbed a vanity film, primarily just showcasing her house and her wardrobe.
And it gained significant infamy years later as an internet meme.
And tracing her journey right up to the present, the sources reveal some very recent, difficult personal struggles. In September 2025, she reportedly revealed on social media that she had been evicted from her condo and was now homeless.
Requesting donations for legal fees, food, and shelter. It's a profoundly difficult and tragic footnote to her association with such a powerful character.
The 1987 recast was a necessary turning point. The chaos surrounding Dixon's exit meant the role needed immediate, steady stability.
And that is exactly what Jess Walton provided, allowing the character to finally evolve.
The torch was officially passed to Walton, first as a temporary replacement, and then permanently airing from June 25, 1987.
This recast was absolutely critical because Walton needed to not only embody Jill's inherent villainous nature, but also develop immediate combustible chemistry with the powerhouse Gene Cooper.
And Walton delivered spectacularly. She stabilized the character and elevated the material.
She quickly earned massive critical acclaim, culminating in 2 major Daytime Emmy Awards, Outstanding Supporting Actress in 1991 and later Outstanding Lead Actress in 1997.
That shift from supporting to lead actress reflects the character's increasing importance and depth.
Walton wasn't just supporting the Catherine Chancellor storyline anymore. She was the storyline. She was now given the breadth to be manipulative, vulnerable, ambitious, and occasionally even sympathetic.
Walton offered some fantastic insight into how she viewed the character, too. She famously likened Jill to Scarlett O'Hara,
calling her a savvy businesswoman and a survivor. But she is also clear that Jill was very manipulative.
It's that dual-nature survivor versus schemer that made her so compelling.
And we have to revisit that Wile E. Coyote analogy, which just perfectly captures her cycle of ambition and failure.
That was Gene Cooper's comparison, right?
It was. And Walton embraced it, noting that Jill is in constant turmoil, always chasing the prize, only to have the metaphorical anvil dropped on her head. She cries, announces her next plan to rule the world, and then falls off the cliff again.
That relentless pursuit, despite failure, is Jill's defining characteristic.
Despite the corporate success and ambition, Jill was often desperately unhappy in her personal life. After her scandalous affair with Jack and her subsequent divorce, she had that brief fling with the ultimate powerful man, Victor Newman.
And Victor, in his characteristic coldness, immediately mortified Jill by clarifying to everyone that the liaison was just a fling.
Ouch. A devastating public rejection for a woman whose entire identity was based on leveraging her desirability for security.
In response to that humiliation, she hastily married John Abbott again in 1993, much to the dismay of his children, who had already seen her scheme with Jack.
But this second marriage quickly brought new drama, all focused on family creation and conflict.
Jill desperately wanted a baby to secure her place in the Abbott family, but John felt he was too old and tried to avoid it.
Jill, however, managed to get pregnant just before John could undergo a secret vasectomy.
So he was literally trying to get a vasectomy behind her back.
Yes, and he pressured her intensely to get an abortion, which she refused, leading to the birth of Billy Abbott.
The sources note that John even publicly questioned if Victor Newman might be the biological father.
He tried to use Jill's fling with Victor to delegitimize the child and avoid the responsibility. It added an extra layer of history and uncertainty to Billy's identity.
The end of this second marriage was incredibly messy, concluding in 1996 due to Jill's affair with Jed Sanders.
And the key figure here is Mamie Johnson, the long-suffering Abbott housekeeper who openly resented Jill.
Mamie exposed the affair, which tragically led to John's second stroke.
This resulted in a bitter custody battle for Billy, which John won.
The sheer audacity of Jill's character is highlighted by her reaction, though. She paid Mamie Johnson millions of dollars, a truly staggering sum for a housekeeper to leave town.
Just trying to erase the witness to her downfall and shame.
John then moved to New York with Billy, leaving Jill alone in Genoa City. But Jill's relentless pursuit of the chancellor status culminated in 1998 with a massive, satisfying victory that felt like a reward for 2 decades of suffering.
She discovered a letter from Philip Chancellor II, dated just before his death, naming her the sole owner of the Chancellor estate.
After years of fighting, she finally had the legal documentation.
And she wasted zero time. Jill immediately evicted Catherine.
But this is where Catherine's sheer resourcefulness and legal cleverness shone. She found a legal loophole.
Some clause related to historic property rights or a shared living arrangement, something that forced them to live together in the mansion.
So the war was literally fought room by room. The intensity of that cohabitation was unlike anything else on television.
Wow, they were constantly fighting over thermostat settings, shared kitchens, even who got to use the main staircase. It ensured the feud never cooled down, keeping the heat on for viewers for years.
This era isn't just about feuding over furniture, though. It's about existential crises and identity swaps that redefine Jill's entire personal history.
It started, as many things do in Genoa City, with a scheme gone wildly sideways.
To get revenge on Catherine, Jill hired the con man Brian Romolotti, who she renamed Rex Sterling, to seduce Catherine. The plan was pure retribution.
But true love is a wild thing in Genoa City, even when it starts with deception. Rex and Catherine actually fell deeply in love and married.
So the plan completely backfired on her.
Completely. And then Rex was shot and killed. This happened shortly after Jill, in one last vengeful twist, had tricked Rex into marrying Catherine's look-alike, Marge, adding another layer of convoluted chaos.
The tragedy around her son continued when the original Philip III was devastated by Philip's presumed death in a DUI car crash.
And this event was a major turning point. It initially united Jill and Catherine in shared grief.
And then came the massive bomb drop in 2007.
Catherine began uncovering repressed memories, a classic soap trope, and eventually revealed she had kidnapped Jill's biological son at birth and swapped him with another baby.
Which meant the child Jill raised and mourned as Philip III was not biologically hers.
Jill was understandably horrified and refused to believe it, but DNA testing of the corpse in Philip's grave confirmed it. The child in the grave was not Jill's biological son.
This revelation led to the introduction of Kane Ashby, an Australian national, who was initially believed to be the true long-lost Philip III.
And Jill and Kane bonded immediately. They formed this incredibly strong and loving mother-son relationship. She finally had her real son back.
But that wasn't the final truth, was it?
Not even close. We need to slow down here to track the ultimate chaos. In 2009, the original Philip III returned, alive, revealing he had faked his death because he was gay and felt he couldn't live an authentic life in Genoa City.
So let me get this straight. The child Jill mourned wasn't dead, but he also wasn't her biological son.
Correct. And then a final layer of deception was revealed. Cain was also a fraud, having been brought to Genoa City by Philip to help cover his tracks. Cain was not the biological son.
So to recap the chaos,
Yeah.
the child Jill raised wasn't hers. The new child she bonded with was a fraud, but the original child came back alive.
It's the ultimate lesson in soap opera parentage. Yet despite this staggering triple deception, the bond with Cain was established.
Jill, in a rare moment of forgiveness and maturity, forgave Cain for the deceit.
She showed her enduring maternal desire by deciding to split her estate 3 ways, between Philip, Billy, and Cain, the son of her heart.
The show seemed determined to rewrite her family tree every few years. In 2003 came the mother-daughter bombshell, attempting to link her directly to Catherine.
Right. Jill's adoptive mother, Liz Foster, revealed that a friend, Charlotte Ramsey, had proof that Catherine was Jill's biological mother.
Jill was absolutely horrified to learn she was the daughter of her sworn enemy.
And Catherine, ironically, suffered a heart attack upon hearing the news. It just shows the shock value of that revelation.
And this twist had immediate and devastating consequences for the younger generation. It forced the annulment of Billy Abbott and Mackenzie Browning's marriage.
This is a critical detail. If Jill was Catherine's daughter, then Mackenzie Catherine's granddaughter and Billy Jill's son were first cousins. This meant their marriage was considered an illicit family relationship.
So they had to annul it before it could be consummated.
Exactly. But once again, the show retconned the truth to restore the defining feud. In 2009, a new head writer reversed the decision.
So they made them cousins, broke them up, and then just took it back.
They took it back. It was revealed that Charlotte Ramsey had fabricated the lie for revenge against Catherine. This instantly nullified the brief mother-daughter relationship and, naturally, immediately reignited the long-standing original feud.
After 2 spectacular failures to find her true biological mother, the sources revealed Jill's greatest desire, a sense of legitimate, powerful belonging, was finally fulfilled.
But only on her adoptive mother's deathbed.
Which brought us to the final and successful paternal discovery in 2010. Liz Foster was dying, and she confessed to Snapper and Greg that Jill's biological father was Neil Fenmore,
The esteemed patriarch of the Fenmore department store dynasty. This was a massive win for Jill.
They gave her a blood relative she could finally connect with and a new, powerful name to claim.
And a paternal half-sister, Lauren Fenmore Baldwin.
Jill was so desperate for this sense of belonging that she legally changed her name to Fenmore. She tried to integrate herself into the powerful family she now truly belonged to.
But Lauren was less than thrilled to have a new notorious sister who had spent 4 decades trying to destroy dynasties and steal fortunes.
Lauren firmly rejected Jill's attempts to forge a relationship.
This resulted in yet another bitter feud, this time centered around control of the Fenmore boutique, as Jill now had a legitimate claim to half of everything.
Though the sources note they did eventually calm down and grow closer, finding common ground in business.
Proving Jill's relentless nature creates drama even when she's attempting to be a good sister.
As the character matured, so did her professional life. We need to look at her transformation. Jill truly went from a manicurist at Hazel's to a major corporate player.
She rose from head of merchandising at Abbott to eventually becoming CEO of Chancellor Industries, at least briefly, after Catherine retired in 2008.
But how did the manicurist from Hazel's truly gain the business acumen to lead these companies? Was this a natural progression, or did the writers just kind of force it?
It was a gradual narrative progression fueled by her ruthlessness. Her 20% stake in Abbott, secured via blackmail, forced her into boardroom settings. Her schemes evolved from stealing a husband to strategic corporate moves. Her ambition finally translated into professional skill.
Yet, despite this corporate sophistication, her romantic choices often remain questionable.
Oh, absolutely. She never truly escaped the chaos. We see her relationships running the gamut.
We have Sean Bridges, the young web designer, who Walton openly called Jill's boy toy.
Then there was ex-con Larry Wharton, whom Catherine, ever the tormentor, allowed to move into the estate for housework.
And Jill, still obsessed with appearances, had an affair with Larry, but kept it secret because she felt he was beneath her socially.
Catherine, naturally, found out and confronted Jill, who denied the affair and publicly insulted Larry.
Which resulted in one of the most memorable moments of public humiliation in soap history.
Larry, seeking revenge, showed up at a Abbott board meeting
And exposed the affair by emptying a box of Jill's sex toys onto the boardroom table. Was that the gold standard for soap opera revenge?
It absolutely was. It was a perfect collision of Jill's professional ambition and her underlying messy personal life. No matter how high she climbed, she could always be brought down by her personal decisions.
She did attempt a more stable life with businessman Jimin Kim.
They developed genuine feelings and became engaged, but he was tragically murdered in 2007 before they could reach the altar.
And then there was the ultimate betrayal involving Catherine. Jill slept with Tucker McCall, completely unaware that he was Catherine's long-lost biological son.
The son she gave away at birth, who was seeking revenge by trying to steal Catherine's companies.
And Catherine naturally fired Jill from Abbott when she discovered the affair.
Continuing the cycle of hatred and professional sabotage.
But the last major relationship for Jill, and maybe the longest in recent memory, was with Colin Atkinson.
She became engaged to the Australian businessman in 2011, having no idea he was both a criminal and Kane's actual biological father.
Their wedding day was famously dramatic. They married on the day Kane was shot and believed to be killed.
Though it was later revealed to be his twin, Caleb. The marriage itself was quickly declared invalid when Colin's estranged wife, Genevieve, showed up, revealing they were still legally married.
Yet, despite the staggering number of deceptions, blackmail, kidnapping, his criminal past, Jill eventually forgave Colin, and they remarried in 2014.
Walton felt that Colin was a good match for Jill, noting that he needed reforming and that Jill, despite her intelligence, often compromises heavily in her partners because of her deep-seated need for acceptance.
This extreme volatility and lack of personal boundaries led directly to a major health scare in 2017.
Jill suffered a near-fatal heart attack after discovering that Colin had committed the ultimate financial betrayal. He had stolen her entire life savings, millions of dollars.
This was a critical storyline, developed in explicit partnership with the American Heart Association to highlight the risks of heart disease in women.
The producers specifically chose Jill because she was the longest-running character, and because her bullish personality made her the kind of person who would dismiss or deny symptoms until it was almost too late.
Which is exactly what she did. She blamed feelings of sudden warmth on other people turning up the thermostat.
And she dismissed jaw pain, a common sign of cardiac distress in women, as just grinding her teeth at night due to stress.
Ralta noted that her character truly thought she was invincible, super strong, super tough.
It took a near-fatal event for Jill to accept the diagnosis of heart disease and blocked arteries, forcing her to finally confront her own vulnerability.
Following Catherine's death in 2013, the feud found an emotional, though convoluted conclusion in the form of a mystery.
Jill was tasked with deciphering cryptic clues in a mysterious music box left for her by her former rival and non-mother.
She expected a massive windfall, or maybe some cruel trick. Instead, Catherine only left her the Chancellor estate, a massive property Jill quickly found she couldn't afford to upkeep, and that enigmatic music box.
This mystery was deliberately prolonged for months. The box was eventually stolen, then rediscovered years later, finally revealing its hidden contents.
A hidden key, a handwritten letter, and a ring from Philip II.
That ring symbolized the core of the entire fight, the love of Philip II, the spark that started everything.
Jill, the ultimate survivor, was eventually financially compensated years later when she discovered Catherine had hidden her most expensive jewelry in a chandelier at the Chancellor estate.
A secret legacy finally revealed. Jill has truly survived financial ruin, legal battles, and massive family betrayals, both giving and receiving them all, while climbing from a beauty salon to the CEO suite.
Jill's enduring relevance really cannot be overstated. Decades later, she is consistently described in our sources as integral to the fabric of the series.
And the rivalry she shared with Catherine Chancellor is the stuff of soap legend. It defined daytime history and famously outlived most marriages.
Walton beautifully encapsulated it, saying the love and hate between them were so thoroughly mixed that you never knew which emotion would surface next.
Even in the very late 2025 source material, Jill, played by Jess Walton, is slated to return to Genoa City.
Her return is prompted by the fallout from the tragic death of Chancellor, her grandson, and a pressing need to address the destabilizing corporate world.
The current context is corporate warfare. The sources specifically anticipate her intervening in Kane Ashby's diabolical plans to take over 3 major companies: Chancellor, Newman, and Jabot.
And Kane has always been vulnerable to Jill's influence, having bonded with her so deeply when he believed he was her son.
That maternal connection gives Jill immense power over him, making her perhaps the only person who can stop his complex corporate schemes.
However, her initial focus is likely to be elsewhere, reflecting her conflicted family relationships.
The teaser indicates she will immediately pick up where she left off with her biological son, Billy Abbott. A heated exchange is specifically anticipated.
And Billy has this profound and lingering resentment toward Jill.
That resentment stems from the fact that while Jill and Kane developed a surprisingly positive relationship, even after he gaslit her, her relationship with her biological son, Billy, remains profoundly fraught.
Especially after she sold Chancellor Industries out from under him to Victor Newman.
This entire synthesis defines Jill's journey perfectly. Her core identity remains tied to that relentless ambition she developed as the poor girl from the foster family, forever seeking the glamour she craved.
She sought wealth, she sought power, and above all, she sought acceptance.
Whether from the Chancellor name, the Abbott name, or finally the Fenmore name, every action, good or bad, traces back to that original young woman determined not to be defined by a beauty salon.
If we connect Jill Abbott to the bigger picture of daytime television, what's so fascinating here is the importance of complex, often deeply flawed female characters like Jill and Catherine.
Their decades-long dynamic conflict not only drove ratings, The Young and the Restless flourished when Jill took center stage, but also kept viewers invested in a relationship that was neither purely good nor purely evil.
Jill's longevity proves that ambition, even when rooted in manipulation and betrayal, creates the most enduring and compelling drama.
It certainly does. The way she weaponized her looks, her ambition, and her wits to claw her way up the social ladder, only to find that acceptance and stability were always just out of reach. That's a universal theme, played out on the grandest, most dramatic stage possible.
And this raises an important question for you, the listener. Considering Jill's complicated past and her present role as the potential corporate savior of Genoa City, do you think her final legacy will be defined by her decades-long defining feud with Catherine, or by her recent, albeit still conflicted, role as a powerful, complex family matriarch?
And a tough question indeed. Thank you for joining us for this extensive deep dive into the legendary legacy of Jill Abbott.
If you enjoy this journey through 50 years of Genoa City history, be sure to like and subscribe.
And comment below to let us know which soap star legacy you think we should explore in the next episode. We love hearing your suggestions.